Okay, so today we're going to talk a little about software for digital signage. You want to take a little deeper dive when we had the training last week. So we're going to specifically talk about two different software products. We're going to talk about DisplayIt Xpress in a little more detail because that's the software that we're really pushing right now with the media player bundles and some of the great offers we have right now for as little as $99 end user for the SCA25. And then we've also ported it on the NMP302WX because of the wireless functionality, and it has a bit better performance, actually quite a bit better performance than the SCA25. So we're going to lead off with DisplayIt Xpress, and then second I'm going to talk about Signage Manager, because understanding a little bit about Signage Manager is also important because we're offering that software with our NMP 302 basic model, the NMP 302W, and the NMP 580W, which is the NMP 570 replacement and brings in live video if needed, which we've talked about in the past. And then maybe most important, the new CDM series of our commercial displays that have the internal quad-core processor is going to be compatible with Signage Manager software as kind of the starting software so people have an out-of-the-box solution. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. So DisplayIt Xpress. Of course, the architect behind DisplayIt Xpress is BestWave, a longtime partner of ViewSonic, and it's basically high-performance digital signage that anyone can use. So the design architecture of DisplayIt Xpress was done with simplicity in mind, even though it's scalable to do some of the large enterprise signage applications. So it provides all the functions businesses need, without the complexity. The user interface is kind of modeled after the standard Microsoft design elements. So it was done also that way, so it's not intimidating for first-time users to start using digital signage software. It does support widgets, in a very good widget program where you can bring in date, weather, RSS feeds, link it to a URL website. So a lot of things on the widget side can be incorporated. Easy configuration, which I'm going to show you, and it's again ideal for small and mid-sized businesses, but we're also finding that even large businesses like enterprise applications want to stay as simple as possible in their signage software, because in a lot of cases they'll have the administrator at the front desk controlling the signage for the company. Another realization is that we've noticed, through study, that 85% of the customers are full screen content. So you can add widgets, you can now start to segment the screen, but if you go out there in the real world, most companies are using full screen signage, whether that be video or signs or JPEG or PowerPoint slides. It's, the messaging is single page. We're leveraging PowerPoint a lot with DisplayIt Xpress because our takeaway is everybody knows how to use PowerPoint. And if you're a business and you can use PowerPoint, you can have signage in your company and you don't have to be stressed out about learning a complicated software product. So our point with this software is stop trying to compete with PowerPoint and leverage PowerPoint to do your signage. You can see bottom some of the file formats that are supported, and a lot of the file formats, however, are supported dependent on what kind of media player you have. If you're running an x86 Windows architecture, you can support anything, right? If you're running an ARM processor, running Android, you may not want to design in Flash if you're a graphics designer. Use HTML5 or something later, because Flash is a horsepower requirement. So anyway, a lot of this file format support is dictated by the player itself. So moving into the design element, this is the first dashboard of DisplayIt Express. You can see there's 3 basic tabs. It's, again, the look and feel is much like a Windows program. You've got add, edit displays, you've got manage content, and then you have monitor and update. And I'm going to go through and show you kind of how this works, but I want you to get the feel on what it looks like. So we've got the 3 tabs showing, and you can see that it's very easy to use in the way it has outlined the functions of the software. Each icon also has a tooltip that you can enable or disable, but the tooltip is very much like Microsoft when you're in a Microsoft software, where you can hover over the command and a tooltip will come up and tell you exactly what that function does. So that also makes it very easy to learn, where somebody can sit down in a few minutes, hover over the icons and read, what the command does in signage, and then they can learn it very easily. Localization, it's supported in all major languages, so that's another benefit of this software. So if you want, Spanish or French or other languages, it's easily supported in all the functionalities. The second tab is talking about content, and here it shows you kind of where you might have your splash page open or your desktop open, and you're simply going to drag your content down to an area where it says drop media files, and it's going to then automatically create a playlist based on the content that you're going to click on, drag, and drop. And that can be, again, if you look on the right side, any one of these file formats, from JPEG to PowerPoint to Excel, whatever that file is, you can drag it and drop it, and it's going to support it and display it as a full screen image. You can also do that with website links on the in the widget category. So this shows you, just as an example, all the kinds of screens that have been created in PowerPoint. So you can see that if you were just to see this, you would say, oh, those were all created in some kind of an illustration or digital signage software. But the fact of the matter is they're all created in PowerPoint. And in the case of a menu where you have data, or here's a Jiffy Lube with a price list, up here's a menu with pricing, PowerPoint has the feature where you can link into an XML spreadsheet and link that directly into your sign. So this makes it easy for restaurants or businesses to create, data, that they're tracking data, and paste that data into their sign using PowerPoint. And then, of course, the PowerPoint is dragged into, the digital signage and can link, to that data. So again, a very cool feature for businesses, maybe for manufacturing shop floors that are reporting on their safety, record or whatever it might be, or throughput ratings. Whatever they can put on a spreadsheet, they can actually link into a PowerPoint slide. Widgets, I talked a little bit about them. Widgets float on top of the content. So you can do widgets 2 ways now with DisplayIt Express. One where it floats, like it's showing here, where your time, your clock, your RSS feed, or your scrolling bar at the bottom or the top can float on top of the content. And DisplayIt Express has also recently added a feature where it can give you a predetermined zone for your widgets. And I'll show you that when we look at the software. Applications, it can be really anything, from education, healthcare, food service, manufacturing, and retail, which is, again, we always talk about retail as our largest segment in digital signage, but there's a lot of untapped opportunity for manufacturing, corporations, and, process control, communications to employees, those kinds of informational boards, can be supported very easily with DisplayIt Express. Okay, so now before I go to Signage Manager, I'm going to end this and I'm going to bring up DisplayIt Express. So let me go and put this down. Okay, so here's the dashboard of DisplayIt Express. So the first tab, Add or Edit Displays. So the first thing you want to do is name the display. And see the pop-up, the hovering? It told you exactly what you want to do there. So that's name the display. Now as you see right here, I've already created one I call 4K display. But I want to take you through the menus anyway. So name the display, then select the type of player. Well, there's two types, right? There's either a Windows or an Android. And you've got 95% of the market. So depending on the kind of player you're going to have in your network, you will select that player in that zone. And then the update method, first I got to select a player. So let me just say Windows PC. Then the update method, you can either do it over the network, shared folder, or USB sneaker net. So it still gives you the opportunity to build a playlist, push it to the network, push it to the player and have it display, or you can push it to a USB, sneaker net it out to your sign wherever that may be located and automatically download it onto the player with the USB port. Here you can see enable transition effects, turn off Windows firewall, disable Windows updates. We usually check these two, by the way. So let me go ahead and check I'm going to check my 4K display media player that I've named. Now that could be named lobby or it could be named conference room 1 or 10, whatever the customer would like to name that player, they can name it. So you see, once I selected the player, because this was predetermined and I had set this up before on a certain player, you can see here it identified the IP address of that player. So now it can talk to that player over that IP. And here you can see the user ID and the password as well in order to talk to that player that I have in the network. So that's the setting up of the add or edit displays, which also could be called creating your signage network. Because I've created one here, you could do this as many times as you like, as many signs as you have in your environment, and create a very large signage network here and name them all different names. So that's the first tab of how you set up the network. Very easy and straightforward. So next, let me go to Manage Content tab. So now Manage Content, we have a blank screen, but let me go ahead, display name, and I've already named a network 4K display. So if I pick that display, you can see I already have a playlist built. If I didn't have a playlist built, I could add item, and there you see it jumped out to my files that are on my PC, but that could jump out to your server or your folders, wherever you might have content stored, right? Or you can add a web page. So on add a web page, see, I got the hovering tool on. It told you what to do with that icon. And you can see if you look at this list of winery ads, the very bottom I have the ViewSonic.com web page. So as it plays through this playlist, when it gets to the web page, it's going to sync up to that URL. I can select a item in the playlist, and you can set your duration of how long you want that slide to play. You can set a start and an end date, an end time, so you can day part if you need to. For a restaurant, you can day part your playlist for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You can do however you want to schedule that playlist, or you can apply the schedule to everything you have selected. Now here on the bottom you can see up, down, remove all. If I move up, if I have one, see French Laundry, if I move it up, it's just going to keep moving French Laundry all the way to the top, or I can move it down. So this gives the user an easy way to reset the order of the playlist that they're creating for that network. That network here we call, or that sign we call 4K display. You also have a preview button, so you can set preview, and it's going to show you what is French Laundry, what that sign looks like. So you can constantly review your sign, or excuse me, you can walk through your whole playlist and preview it before you publish. So this is really cool, and a lot of customers will ask, can I preview my playlist before I actually push it out, push it out to the sign? So the answer is that,
quick question.
Yes, you bet.
So are we, when we're doing this, are we building the zone in PowerPoint? And then is it just going to mirror the slides that we pull over? Or are we able to do zones similar and display it the way that you would do in Signage Manager?
Okay. No, you were right the first time. The file is built in PowerPoint.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so whatever you build in PowerPoint or whatever graphics program, as long as you save it as a JPEG, I mean, it could be built in Illustrator or built somewhere else, but for the purposes, or it can be a photo, but for the purposes here, the playlist file has to be built in DisplayIt Xpress prior to building the playlist. So the good news about that is it removes the complexity of having to design, design, how should I say it, zones in your page, and then worrying about the resolution of those zones so they look correct. It kind of removes that, because you got to build it beforehand to make sure all that is correct before you start building your actual signage network. And that would save a lot of grief, because a lot of support calls that we will get, a lot of times it's dependent on, well, I created this zone and I put my image in the zone and it looks fat, or or it's stretched or something, and that's a lot of problems. So this kind of solves that issue that you have to have your images built before you build the playlist. So there's the playlist, how you list that for that one sign we call 4K display. And again, you can do this over and over again. You can build 10 different networks. It's really unlimited. Another benefit, it's unlimited. Set the duration, set the start time, set the end time, and you've got your full scheduler there. Now, as I move over to the widgets, as long as we're on the sign, I can pick, if I select clock, it's going to give me the choice of no clock, analog, or digital. And the target zones on the screen are where it's going to place that clock. So you select where you want that clock to be placed on the screen. And this is using the technique of it's floating on top of your content. The weather is the same way. It's no weather, or you can pick weather where you want it, and you can place it on your sign to the best to accommodate your design. Same with calendar. You can place it on a target to where you want it to be placed. And then, of course, a text feed, you can place it on the top or the bottom, and you can write what you'd like to scroll, and you can set the scrolling speed. So, and the background color of the scroll. So it gives you full control of the widget library there on what you would like to use floating on the screen. Now this tab off to the right, it's called Panel. If you select that, now you have where the architect of DisplayIt Express built this to make it easy for people if they didn't want to place the widgets on top of a floating content. They can actually, he created a zone for those widgets. So if you select one of those, you can see there's predetermined zones, and for the text bar, either in landscape or portrait, for those widgets if the customer so chooses, in order to simplify the task. So going back, now the last tab is monitoring your network. So as you know, we just built one network, and that one network, or that one sign, we titled 4K display. You see it's red right now. This is actually color-coded, and if it's red, it means there's nothing being pushed to that player. So that sign is down. And you can link that to an email, which is really cool. In the tools up here, you can link it to an email if you want to be notified when that goes red or if it goes red. Now, if I was to select it, okay, it's updating now. Now, the problem is I don't have this connected to a player at the moment because we're in this conference room, but it can update. Now it'll update, and it typically will turn yellow when it's downloading the file. And then once that downloads to the player, this tab turns green. So you have 3 color choices there that you monitor as monitoring your signage network. You know, red is nothing's being displayed to that sign, green is everything's a go, and yellow is it's in the download process. So it just gave me a message that attempted to download, but as you know, I'm not connected to a player, so it's not going to be successful in downloading to that player. It also gives you a list of last connected and last updated. So let's say you had 20 signs in your network. You're going to have 20 line items here, and you can monitor at any time when the last, the last time that network was updated and the last updated and last contacted as far as on the network. You can see this sheet's 54 pages long. So while DisplayIt Express is very easy to use, it is extremely functional in an enterprise or a large deployment, and really is a neat software package. So that's basically the overview on DisplayIt Express. So 3 tabs: monitor and update your network environment. Second tab was all about managing content and what you build for each display or each display name. And the first tab was to create your network and create it, link it to an IP, select your update technology, whether it be over a LAN network, a WAN network, you can update over the web, or USB, SneakerNet. So three simple tabs.